1 minute till the show. While I'm thinking about it, Susie baby, there's the Vintage Moto Fest in Monterey, 15th and 16th or 16th and 17th. I have an announcement on the show.
Oh, what month?
Next week.
Oh, July.
We should go. Not that far. So if you want to go like to Monterey for a day or so and go to the race, it's like the biggest vintage race. No, I've never been to it. It's an AHRMA event, and every class that AHRMA has for 2 days. But it's near, I guess it's near either the Laguna track or whatever. There's road racing. There's every kind of racing for 2 days. Vintage.
In Monterey.
Yeah. Listen to the announcement. Put it on your calendar.
The 15th, 16th?
Yes, 15th and 16th.
Okay.
15th and 16th. Ask Elaine and Stu where that hotel they stayed in. Maybe we'll stay there or something.
Cypress Inn. Cool.
Okay. Show's about to begin. Okay?
You're live.
Okay, the riders' meeting is over. Let's get down to the starting line, and I'll tell you about what you're going to see on tonight's show. And the next time, try this segment. I've got a great tip for you if you're going to be using a PVL in your bike real soon. In the Moto Showcase, we take a look at a 1979 Honda CR250. And here's the problem segment. We've got some good questions and answers for you. What's it worth? 1976 Suzuki RM250. Trivia returns tonight with a chance to win Discovering 6 Days. We've got all that and a whole lot more coming up on Vintage Motocross Q&A. Good evening, everyone. I'm Joe Labate, and you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. Thank you for joining me tonight. Susie, thank you for being here. And Jordan and Chelsea for helping me put the show together. What do we got coming up, Jordan? Oh, that's right. So keep sharing the show. Whether you're on Facebook or you are on YouTube, please keep sharing the show. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to comment Motion Pro. A little bit later on in the show, we'll be giving away a sticker sheet just like this, compliments of Vinco.com. Our YouTube channel is going really well, but we could always use a little more help. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's a great way to watch the show every week and watch our reruns as well as listen to all the interviews we've done over the years. When you subscribe, you'll get a little alert just like this. Tells you when we're live on the air with a new episode of Vintage Motocross Q&A. How are the experts watching the show? How are the pros watching it? They're watching it from their big screen TV in their living room with surround sound, like everybody has. You sit back on your phone, you can comment and watch the show on your big screen. Great way to enjoy it. As always, I want to thank our sponsors, Motion Pro, Vinco, Racer X Magazine, Preston Petty Products, Full Circle Racing, Northwest Mako CZ, Sunrise Vapor Blasting, and the International Motocross Museum. On tonight's Next Time Try This segment, I want to talk to you about a PVL. If you're not familiar with a PVL, it is an electronic ignition that many people use to replace the points on their bike, or perhaps replace the Motoplat or some of the worn out ignitions that some guys have been using over the years. They get old and they just give out. Now, PVL is kind of expensive, as you can see there on the box, $519. I recently put one in a 1971 Harley-Davidson Baja 100 that I just restored. Now, I want to go over this slowly because I think it's some very, very important points here. Okay. Number one, there are instructions with this. And if you're like most people, men and women, a lot of times when things come out of the box and look very uncomplicated, you will overlook the instructions. Don't. When you get the PVL, open the box, take out the instructions, and spend a half hour reading every page. There are some details in there that you're not going to want to miss. And there are some things that you've probably done over the years, like when you check spark for your bike, what's the first thing you do? You take out the plug, you lay it on the head, you give it a little kick, and you see if there's spark coming out at the end of the plug. That is not the case with a PVL, and you can do damage to it. That's why it's very, very important to read the instructions. Jordan, next slide. One of the first things I did when I opened it up out of the box, if you look down here, you'll see some green tape that goes around the rotor. Now I'm thinking to myself, this is only here to protect it in shipping or not to drop it or get anything on it when you're going to be assembling the unit. Not so. That tape is around there because it is about 10/1000ths of an inch. That is the clearance you need when that rotor is attached to your crank with the stator unit on there. Next slide, please, Jordan. You can see it right here. Around the edge of that rotor, right where those black legs are with the two arrows on them, it needs to be 10/1000ths of an inch clearance all the way around. What is 10/1000ths of an inch? If you're not familiar with something like that, it's a piece of paper folded over, or 2 sheets of paper. That's how much clearance you have between that rotor and those legs from that stator. And that's why they put that tape around there too, because when you put it together, that tape should not be hitting any place on those plastic legs. Don't take the tape off. Make sure you have the clearance when you put everything in there. Next slide, please, Jordan. One of the problems you may have when you go to put this rotor on the end of your crank is that your crank has a keyway in there from your previous ignition. Many times the key from that keyway can wear, it can get loose, and it can cause a burr right where that keyway actually goes. If there is a burr there, even the slightest burr, you're not going to be able to get the rotor on clearly and squarely, and you're not going to be able to get that clearance of 10/1000ths of an inch that you need. If there's even the slightest wobble in the rotor, you're going to have a problem. Here's how you can rectify that problem if you do have it or there's any kind of a burr on that rotor. And by the way, the PVL rotor does not have a keyway. It's got a taper fit. It fits extremely tightly once you pop it on to that crank. Jordan, go to the next slide for a second. Leave it right there. Here's what you're going to use. Valve grinding compound. Okay, you can buy that in any auto parts store. This is what the end of your crank would look like sticking out of your engine. This is going to be your rotor. You're going to put that valve grinding compound right where that rotor sits on the crank, and you're going to begin to spin it. You should spin it you could spin it in both directions, but start off going in one direction and then take it off, examine it, and you're going to see that it's going to have or should have a nice matte finish. It should look uniform all the way around. If it doesn't, put a little more valve grinding compound on there, start spinning it the other way, right to left, left to right, and keep a nice, smooth, even finish on the end of that crank. I think in the next slide, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. There it is right there. This happens to actually be the one from the Harley that I did just last week. It was quite an experience for me. I had never really dealt with a PVL before in a situation where it had to have this type of clearance or there was something slightly awry with the crank. But I did, and when I did it, I noticed right away that it was nice and smooth, had a nice dark gray finish to it when I finished using the valve grinding compound. What do we got next, Jordan? Okay. This is it after I put it together. I don't have the legs on yet with the stator, but everything fit nice and squarely on there. And when I pushed that rotor onto that crank, and I'm not talking about tapping it on, I'm talking about just popping it on there, I couldn't get it off. I had to use a little puller that came with it, and with just a couple of turns, it came off. But on a taper fit, it should fit so tightly, so smoothly, and go on so firmly, you shouldn't really be able to pull it off again with your hands. I'm not saying that you're going to need a puller and 2 big wrenches, but it may take a little bit to get it off if it truly fits on there correctly. Next slide, Jordan. Oh, well, here it is after I got it all sorted. And there it is, my Harley Baja 100 restoration. I did that for a great gentleman named Mike Morey from New York. It is being picked up tomorrow at noon. The bike is complete. It runs. It was an absolutely amazing project and a fun thing to do. I never restored a Harley Baja before. This week's VMXQ special are clutch plates for a 1986 or 87 Suzuki RM125. They are just $99.95. What I love about these plates is that their cork friction plates are infused with aluminum particles designed to ensure smoother power delivery and fade-free performance. Of course, it comes with 5 steel plates, 5 friction plates, and the springs. That's just $99.95 this week from VMXQ. Keep the ride going. In the photo showcase tonight, Susie, we have a 1979 Honda CR250 that was sent in to us by Brent Lucas. The name Lucas may be familiar to you because Brent, Chris, and Dylan have all sent bikes in over the past several months. You've got a great page on Facebook, the Lucas Collection, I think it's called. Anyway, let's take a look at some of the pictures that Brett sent us, and I'll read what's going on here. My 79 CR250 bike is close to my heart. As a youngster, Marty Smith was a favorite rider of mine. So many favorite race bikes were redone with Marty in my thoughts. I had the frame from a 1980 swing arm powder coated the correct Tahitian red. The wheels were done by Tom McAllister at Full Circle Racing. The motor was rebuilt by Woody at Action Cycle in Tacoma. Ceramic coating done by Paul at B Moto in Pacific, Washington. There is new VMX plastic, an NOS 1980 CR seat, the brake rods, and miscellaneous parts are from Eldersfield Custom Tank, new chain and sprockets. It's also got new Dunlop tires. Nothing was overlooked on this bike. The bike will be raced at some point, but for now, we're just going to take a look at it for a bit. This project, as most of our collection, was a labor of love. Thanks again, Joe, for getting another one of our bikes on the show. This is definitely a passion for the Lucas family. Thanks again, Brett Lucas. Well, thank you, Brett Lucas. And you guys have quite a collection of coffee mugs up there from Preston Petty Products. It's back there on the wall. And Vintage Motocross Q&A. If you want a coffee mug, Brett, let me know. If you want stickers, I'll get you some stickers. And because you guys are such big contributors to the show, maybe you want a set of Preston Petty GP grips. Either way, let me know what the Lucas family wants, and Joe will get it to you. Thanks again, Brett. Great bike. That segment was sponsored by Preston Petty Products. This week's special is an integrated taillight rear mudder, just $85.95. Comes in silver, red, white, and blue, and yellow. I think it comes in orange as well, and red. Anyway, if you want to become a dealer from Preston Petty Products, get a hold of Paul Stannard. He'll set you up. You become a dealer if you have a retail outlet. Thank you, Paul Stannard and Preston Petty Products. And here's the problem segment tonight, Susie. We've got some questions that have come in over the past week. Jordan, what do we have up first? Ron Di Basilio. Joe, can you help me matching the silver paint on my Bultaco M68? I can, Ron. And you know who helped me with the matching of the silver paint? Don Miller from Metro Racing and my good friend Bill Masho. Both master restoration guys, in my opinion. They would be on my short list of people if I were actually going to pay to have a bike restored. And both of them said the same thing. You want to use a Ford Silver. I think it's called 1G. Here it is right here. Ford Silver Metallic OEM color code 1G or 5299. I also hear that there's a Porsche Silver that's very close to, and they're all about the same. But yeah, the 1G Ford Silver Metallic, that'll put you where you want to be with your silver paint on your Bultaco M68. That's a frame I did with that silver. It was on a Bultaco Frontera. Robert Oscar Pomeroy. I have an engine in for rebuilding for a customer. I ran into some scoring issues on the seal surface. Any advice? Yeah, Robert. I had this on a couple of weeks ago, and since then, I did a little further research on it. Where the seal sits on the end of your crank, could be on the ignition side, could be on the primary side, on the clutch side. Sometimes they do get some pitting on there, and in some cases, what you can do is have them welded, have a machinist take them back down, much like they do when they... Gina!
Oh my goodness.
Much like they do when... Susie, that's okay. Much like they do when they re-chrome, hard chrome a set of forks, okay? But in this case, I've learned that there's something now that they're selling, and I'm sure it's not anything new, but they sell a sleeve that goes over that crank end, okay? And you have to heat up the sleeve and make sure the crank is nice and cold, and you can press it on there. They come in a variety of sizes. This is an example of one. They come in a variety of sizes, in hundreds of sizes actually, and you can buy them from McMaster Car. And I think we have a picture here of some, there it is, McMaster Car. It's a great catalog, has a lot of great little items in there. And those sleeves that you want to put on the end of your crank like that, well, that's the answer to that problem. They do have to be pressed on, but you'll find one the exact size that you need. And you may have to go with a larger inner diameter of your new seal that you're going to put on, or you may find something real close. I hope that helps. Robert Oscar Pomeroy, thanks for sending in the question. Next up, we have a question or a comment from Glenn Lewis. I was admiring the pictures of your Baja 100 you restored. Thank you, Glenn. What's with the ends of the cables on that bike? What are those things? It's very interesting. Here's a picture of the bike, and on the cable ends of this bike, both on the clutch cable and the front brake cable, they don't come with ends. When you buy these parts new from AHRMA, if you're lucky enough to find them, they have something called a wire swivel stop. These things are available in hardware stores. It's a wire swivel stop. There's nothing on the end of the brake cable or the clutch cable on these bikes. You can buy these in a hardware store. You can find them at Motion Pro, and all your cheaper mini bikes, go-karts, and lawnmowers, and of course, AHRMA motorcycles all have wire swivel stops on the end of them. That's what it came with. I wanted to make it look as authentic as possible, so that's what I used again, wire swivel stops.
I'm Brock Glover, and you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Sean Gager. We're here with Altus Motorsports. I'm Kevin Almeida's mechanic, bike number 16. We wanted to kind of show off the Motion Pro wrenches and all kinds of different tools that Motion Pro makes. You know, getting the job done, saving time is crucial, especially, you know, qualifying, trying to do a clutch change or anything like that. These speed wrenches are absolutely great to have. They make our lives absolutely way easier. Every single mechanic on the crew has many things in their toolbox, and we are very happy to have them on board.
In the What's It Worth segment tonight, we take a look at a 1970 Suzuki RM250. This bike recently sold on eBay. This is the segment of the show where you, the viewers at home, guess as close as you can without going over. And I'll tell you what, I'm feeling kind of generous tonight. If you can guess how much this bike sold for without going over, I will send you a set of Preston Petty GP grips. Preston Petty GP grips to the guy or gal who comes closest without going over. This bike was sold in Florida on June 22nd. Jordan's going to go through the slides. I'll tell you a little bit more about this RM Suzuki. Of all the MXs introduced in 1976, the Suzuki RM250 was superior to any of the other Japanese offerings. It was lightweight, the frame was durable, the handling was great, the power was usable, and the suspension travel was over 9 inches. For sale is my 1976 Suzuki RM250. This bike has been in my collection for many years. The restoration for this bike was done by Vintage Moto Factory in California. It's a very nicely restored bike with mostly original components such as the factory rims, gas tank, motor, frame, front fender, bars, etc. The bike has been in my collection and has sat inside. It is restored, as I mentioned. The motor is a great compression and it can easily be turned into a rider, or it would just be a great addition to any collection. It is being sold on a bill of sale only. This is a really nice bike, and they did mention Moto Factory in Southern California. That is Bill Masho, and we saw another bike a little bit earlier from Bill, that Bultaco, I think he restored. Anyway, Bill, nice job on this bike. What do you folks at home think this bike recently sold for? $4,000? $5,000? $6,500? This bike actually sold for $7,400. $7,400, 1976 Suzuki RM250. Susie, if you could tell me who got closest without going over, I'll get him a set of GP grips.
I think it looks like John Deemer. 7,400. He came in at 7,600.
76 is going over. Sorry, John. Try again next week.
And Gary Kane was 79. So John Deemer.
But who got it closest without going over? Anybody? I'll tell you what. You keep looking. I'm going to go on with the show. If you see somebody that did not go over 7,400, let me know who it is. If not, I will give it to the person who got it closest, even though they went over.
It's John Deemer.
John Deemer?
Yeah.
John, give me your address. I will get you a set of GP grips, compliments of Preston Petty products. Thanks for playing along. Full Circle Racing still has a great special going on. They will powder coat your hubs for just $50 a piece. That's for the front and the rear. They will make them gloss black or a satin black finish. For just $10 more, Tom will be glad to do the brake plate as well. Okay? $50. This is a great little service that Tom McAllister has been providing for us. I've had a few of them done, and he does a great job. Now, also up at Full Circle Racing is a new special. They've got CZ brake plates for just $179, or $179 if you want the logo on it, $169 if you don't. They have brass fittings on them. These are far superior to the stock brake plate, and Tom has been making these for over 20 years. They're made of 6061 aluminum, just $179 with the logo, $169 without. Get a hold of Tom McAllister at Full Circle Racing. Have you ever heard of? This is a great little segment of the show, and this is a bike that's kind of close to my heart. I had one when I was a little kid, and I want to know, have you ever heard of a Bridgestone? You ever heard of a Bridgestone? It's a great little bike. I'll tell you a little bit more about it. Jordan's going to go through the slides. Bridgestone Motorcycles was a division of the Bridgestone Tire Company in Tokyo, Japan. They produced mopeds and bicycles from 1952 to 1970. Initially producing power-assisted bicycles, the division moved on to making mopeds and then motorcycles with two-stroke engines. In 1946, the tire manufacturer Bridgestone started to produce the bicycles, and then they went on to the motorcycles a little bit later. Most of the production was exported to the USA. The U.S. importer was Rockford Motors in Illinois. Now, Bridgestone also supplied tires to the big four at that time, Yamaha, Suzuki, Kawasaki, and Honda. And they wanted to keep them kind of happy. Now, in the 60s, Bridgestone's core business was, of course, the tires. But they started to make motorcycles, and they started to buy into the market of the big four in Japan. The big four said, back off, stop selling motorcycles, otherwise we're going to stop buying your tires. And they did back off. And they backed off to the point of where they sold their remaining stock to Rockford Motors in America. Some of the bikes came through incomplete, even some were unpainted, but they did sell them through 1970 until they actually ran out of stock. And they were actually a pretty competitive little company. They went on to race some small bore GPs in Malaysia, where they scored some second and third places. And at one point where they were ready to go to the Isle of Man, which had to be called off because there was some kind of a shipping a delay. The seamen were on strike was what it was, so they couldn't get bikes to the Isle of Man. But at that point, Bridgestone had a 50cc bike that had 10 speeds. A 10-speed bike, a 50cc 10-speed bike that they were going to race at the Isle of Man. But that never happened. They never raced there. And then shortly after that, the bikes were all sold out, and they wanted to keep selling tires to everybody else. So they stopped making motorcycles completely. When I was a kid, about 14 years old, there was a Bridgestone dealer in our town. And all of a sudden, 5 or 6 kids all had them. And I had one. I was about 14. Mine was used. I forgot where I got it from. But it was a very, very reliable motorcycle. It had a rotary valve, had a 4-speed, listen to this, rotary transmission. What does that mean? It was 4 down. It wasn't 1 up and 4 or 5 down. It was 4 down. When you got to 4th gear, if you pressed it again, it went back to neutral. You could hit it again. It would go back to 1st gear. Kind of complicated, especially if you didn't know what gear you were in. You'd be ripping along in 4th gear. Next thing you know, you'd be in neutral. It also came with 2 sprockets on the back, sort of like that Harley Baja that I just restored. Had a trail sprocket and a road sprocket, and they were extremely reliable. Weak in suspension, but extremely reliable bikes in the early 70s. And now you have heard of a Bridgestone and know a little bit more about that. Sunrise Vapor Blasting. Mark Ferry actually does a great job for us here. So many of our parts on our little Harley restoration and other bikes that we have here as well. Get a hold of Mark Ferriester. He's down in Modesto, has a very fast turnaround time. Whether it floats, flies, or rolls, he'll put it in that tank and give you back a part that is as clean as new. And when it comes to clean, there is only one clean. After that, there are degrees of dirty. When you get it back from Mark Ferriester, it'll be as clean as it ever is going to get. Thank you, Mark Ferriester and Sunrise Vapor Blasting. Trivia returns, Susie. Trivia returns, and of course, tonight we were giving away this beautiful book by Keith Geisner, Discovering 6 Days. It's a wonderful follow-up to his book, Finding Number 49. So open on your thinking caps. I have a little trivia question for you. This is a call-in contest. You will speak to one of our operators that are standing by. Jordan, what's the question? How many gold medals did Malcolm Smith win during his career? How many gold medals did Malcolm Smith win? Jordan, you have the picture here of Malcolm? Because I want to give everybody a little hint. If not, we can use it at the...
It'll be on the answer.
When I give the answer. Okay,
Later.
you don't want to show the picture right now? No biggie. How many gold medals did Malcolm Smith win during his career? I had a picture of Malcolm here with 5 gold medals around his neck. That's your hint. It's not 5. How many gold medals did Malcolm Smith win in his career? Call in 925-234-8181. That's area code 925-234-8181. Movie night. When we get back from movie night, we will give you the winners of the trivia contest and the random share giveaway. But this is something really special that was sent to me from Jeff Kokoski, and I think you're going to love this. Jordan, let's see what we got for movie night.
Dem Feind gelungen, die Front in breiter Formation zu durchbrechen. Im Süden hat der Gegner Zossen genommen und stößt auf Stahnsdorf vor. Der Feind operiert jetzt am nördlichen Stadtrand zwischen Frohnau und Pankow und im Osten ist der Feind bis zur Linie Lichtenberg-Marsdorf-Karlshorst gelangt.
Mit dem Angriff Steiners wird das alles in Ordnung kommen.
Mein Führer, Steiner
konnte nicht genügend Kräfte für einen Angriff massieren. Der Angriff Steiner ist nicht erfolgt.
Es bleiben im Raum Keitel, Jodl, Krebs und Burgdorf.
Das war ein Befehl! Der Angriff Steiners war ein Befehl! Wer sind Sie, dass Sie es wagen, sich meinen Befehl zu widersetzen? So weit ist das also gekommen. Das Militär hat mich belogen! Jeder hat mich belogen, sogar die SS! Die gesamte Generalität ist nichts weiter als ein Haufen niederträchtiger, treuloser Feiglinge!
Mein Führer, ich kann nicht zulassen, dass die Soldaten, die für Sie verbringen...
Nicht als Feiglinge! Verreiter, Versager!
Mein Führer, was Sie da sagen, ist ungeheuerlich.
Die Generalität ist das Geschmolz des deutschen Volkes! Sie ist ohne Ehre! Sie nennen sich Generale, weil Sie Jahre auf Militärakademien zugebracht haben, nur um zu lernen, wie man Messer und Gabel hält! Jahrelang hat das Militär meine Aktionen nur behindert. Es hat mir jeden nur ersichtlichen Widerstand in den Weg gelegt. Ich hätte gut daran getan, von Jahren alle höheren Offiziere liquidieren zu lassen, wie Stalin. Ich war nie auf einer Akademie. Und doch habe ich allein auf mich gestellt, ganz Europa erobert. Verräter! Von allem Anfang an bin ich so verraten und betrogen worden. Es wurde ein ungeheurer Verrat geübt am deutschen Volke. Aber alle diese Verräter werden bezahlen. Mit ihrem eigenen Blut werden sie bezahlen. Sie werden es saufen in ihrem eigenen Blut.
Bitte gerne. Jetzt beruhig dich doch.
Meine Befehle sind in den Wind gesprochen. Es ist unmöglich, unter diesen Umständen zu führen. Es ist aus. Der Krieg ist verloren. Aber wenn Sie, meine Herren, glauben, dass ich deswegen Berlin verlasse, irren Sie sich gewaltig. Eher jage ich mir eine Kugel durch den Kopf. Tun Sie, was Sie wollen.
Jeff Kukowski, great job. You got in a lot of our sponsors, and that was absolutely wonderful. We're going to take a commercial break. When we get back, I'm going to have tonight's winner on the phone. He's been holding on since the movie started, and we'll tell you who the random share giveaway winner is, too. We'll be right back.
You there?
Classic and vintage dirt bikes are more than a hobby. It's not just about the ride. It's about the work that goes in. The work that keeps you connected to the ride. It's about bringing the bike back to life and doing it with your own hands. It's about the adrenaline and adventure. And when it comes to putting all the pieces together, only Vinco knows the bikes and parts the way you do. Vinco, keep the ride going.
Okay, we're back live, and I have tonight's trivia contest winner on the phone. This is Joe Abadi. You're live on Vintage Motocross Q&A. Who am I speaking to?
Sean Hopkins.
Sean, how many gold medals did Malcolm Smith win in his career?
He won 8.
8 is the correct answer. I want to thank you very much for calling in, Sean, and I'm going to give Susie the phone. She's going to get your address. We're going to get you a copy of this great book by Keith Geisner, Discovering 6 Days, okay?
I have his address.
Sounds great. It'll go perfect with my number 4, Finding 49 book.
Hey, sounds good. Thanks for calling in, and thanks for watching the show, Sean.
Thanks, Joe.
Bye-bye. And there he is, Malcolm Smith, kind of emulating the time period of when Mark Spitz also won, I don't know how many gold medals Mark Spitz won, but anyway, that was in Dirt Bike Magazine. In the centerfold, Malcolm Smith, 8 gold medals. Sean Hopkins was the winner of that, and tonight's random share giveaway winner is Bradley DeAngelis. Bradley DeAngelis, get us your address, and you will get a sticker sheet just like this. Compliments of Vinco.com. Bradley DeAngelis. What do we got next, Jordan? Because, man, I'm doing a lot of talking here tonight. This Week in Motocross History is brought to you by Racer X Magazine. I have a copy of it right here, and as I tell you every week, it's available on your newsstand and online now. Don't forget to see our ad in the back of every issue. Racer X. 1969, a first for the professor. Something monumental in American motocross happened on July 4th. It was a Sunday in 1969. That was the day Gary Bailey, riding a prototype Greaves 250 Griffin, won the Firecracker International MX race at Saddleback Park in Southern California. In doing so, Bailey became the first American to beat the visiting Europeans. Although this race was not part of the promoter Edson Dye's official Inter-Am series, many of the top Europeans visiting America at that time were on hand. No American would win another series until Gary Jones did it in 1972. No American would win a Trans Am series until Jimmy Weinert did it in the 500s in 1973. And of course, no American would win an FIM Grand Prix until Jim Pomeroy did it in Spain in 1973. Bailey's accomplishment was the first on what would be a growing list of first American victories in the sport. And he's still out there, Gary Bailey, doing real well too. 1979, what do we got, Jordan? Noyce rolls home. Homeland hero Graham Rolls-Noyce wins the British 500cc GP at Farley Castle, Great Britain, with a 2-1 score, and the top U.S. Kawasaki rider, Bad Brad Lackey, went 1-4 with moto scores there. Third in the day was 3-3 tally was by Suzuki's Roger DeCoster, then a 5-time 500cc champ. Great day for Graham Noyce, huh? Finishing ahead of Lackey and DeCoster in 79. 1983. Oh, we got the Red Bud winners. Red Bud, and that's coming up pretty soon too, in September, actually. Anyway, for the Motocross the Nations. But I digress. Red Bud in Buchanan, Michigan hosted a triple-header AMA 125, 250, and 500cc National as part of the July 4th weekend. I've been trying to find things that are right on July 4th or having something to do with July 4th. Anyway, Team Honda's David Bailey emerged as the winner in the 250 class over my buddy Scott Burnworth, who was riding the Suzuki, and Kawasaki's Billy Lyle. In the 125 class, it was Johnny O'Mara taking the win ahead of Yamaha's Ron Lechien and Kawasaki's Jeff Ward. In the 500 class, went to Brock Glover, over his teammate Warren Reed and Kawasaki's Kent Howerton. All three of those class winners that day, O'Mara, Bailey, and Glover, they all went on to win the national championship at the end of that season. And that is what's happening around 4th of July in motocross history. And in 1977, my friend Brad Lackey won his first overall GP. He did that in Great Britain. Imagine that. 4th of July, Great Britain. We have some history with him. Well, Brad stuck it to him again on 4th of July. That was his first overall GP win in his career, one of several. And that was on July 4th, 1977, 45 years ago. That was July 4th. I also want to wish Brad a very, very happy birthday. Brad is 69 years old on July 8th, a couple days away. Hope you're feeling good, Brad. Hope we can get together soon. Happy birthday, Bad Brad. In the announcements tonight, we are going to be talking about, of course, the International Motocross Museum. Now, you've been hearing me talk about this for a couple of weeks now, and I will be getting on with it even further as we get closer to the September 21st date. It is a Wednesday. Keep that in mind. The Motocross Donations, as I just mentioned a moment ago, is September 24th and 25th. So you want to get to the International Motocross Museum. That fundraiser will be on a Wednesday. You can expect to see Bob Hanna, Ricky Johnson, I know for a fact Garrett Walsink, and I know that Heike Mikkola will be there. That's September 21st in beautiful Chicago. I also have another offer for you. If you haven't bought tickets yet and you want to go, take a look at these pictures. See these tables? Tables are really great. It's in a beautiful place called Pinstripes. It's in northern Chicago. It's a fabulous place. The food was phenomenal. And these tables are all set up right near the stage, and you'll hear people talk like Ricky Johnson was the MC last year. So many people got up with some really great stories, from Steve Wise to Warren Reed. And I am buying a table. Vintage Motocross Q&A is buying a table, and we have seats for we have seats for 12. I will be there, and I have room for 11 more people. Now, you'll save $100 off the ticket. You want to get close to the stage, you want to get those pictures, you want to hear the stories up close and personal, get a hold of me and I will get you a seat at my table at $100 off regular retail value. In fact, I can tell you this. I mentioned this a few times already, maybe on the Vintage Motocross Q&A website during the week. I put up a little advertisement. I sold 5 or 6 tickets already. There's room for 12. If you're going, you haven't bought a ticket, you want to sit at the Vintage Motocross Q&A table, get a hold of me. You'll save $100 on a ticket. Thank you. Tom Miller, Terry Good, the International Motocross Museum. If you know you can't make it, get over to their website, buy a poster, a hat, some other great swag that they have over there, and help support this cause. It's going to happen, guys. It's going to happen, and you'd like to be able to say that you are a part of it. International Motocross Museum. Did I say Heike Mikkola was going to be there? And it's his birthday today, too. Heike Mikkola, happy birthday. I'm looking forward to meeting you for the very first time in Chicago, September 21st. I'm sure you're not watching the show, but if anybody knows the Flying Finn, tell them I said hello. We have a big race coming up at Wards Creek, July 30th and 31st, Susie. That's coming up at Ward Creek. That is in Raymond, Washington. WA is Washington, isn't it? Up in the great Northwest. Got a great race coming up there. It's got camping, and it goes on for a couple of days. Friday, you could check in. Saturday and Sunday, there's racing. Ward Creek. Susie won't be camping. And here's another race I was talking about a little bit earlier before the show went on. This is the AHRMA Classic Moto Fest of Monterey. This is the AHRMA Northwest and the Southwest region combined. This is supposed to be one of the biggest events in California. It's several days of racing, and they have every class that AHRMA has, including road racing. So there can be some AHRMA road racing and all the forms of motocross, cross country, and trials, and everything else that goes along with it. This is in Monterey, July 15th, 16th, and 17th. I'm going to be there. Looking forward to seeing you if you can make it. Finish line is brought to you by Northwest Mako CZ. Don't forget to get a hold of Alan Brown. He's got all sorts of parts over there, from Magura controls to billet brake pedals. And there's a little something for everybody, not just Mako CZ guys. Get over to Northwest Mako CZ. Check out what Alan's got available. Vintage Motocross Q&A t-shirts and hoodies are still available in both gray and white. They have our logo across the front, my autograph across the back, still just $19.99. You can still get a hoodie, too, for a couple of bucks more. Vintage Motocross Q&A sponsorship opportunities are still going strong. We're reaching between 18 and 22,000 people a week. All of our sponsors are very, very happy with what we're doing so far. I've been speaking to a few more sponsors recently. We will have a new one coming up in the next 6 to 8 weeks. He's somebody that does 3D. I can't think of the name of it. Plastic. The 3D. What is it called, Susie?
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about a sponsor that we have coming up pretty soon. I'll tell you about him once I get the product in. Anyway, he'll be reproducing things in plastic, 3-dimensional. I forget what it's called. Doesn't matter right now.
It's 3D.
3D. I think that wraps it up for this week's Vintage Motocross Q&A, doesn't it, Jordan? There it is. I want to thank all the viewers at home. I hope you had a healthy 4th. Don't forget that great event coming up in Monterey and a whole bunch of other stuff happening, including the International Motocross Museum. Gino, good night from us at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Don't forget to keep sharing the show. Congratulations to the winner, Bradley DeAngelis, Sean Hopkins, winner of the Discovering 6-Day book. To my sponsors and everybody who watched, have a good night. Okay.